am KB with Nerdify. So lovely to chat with you, and just thank you for taking time to talk with us about Found.
My
Listen,
pleasure.
I think this show is so exceptional. Like it is so, so good. And it just touches on so many things. I mean, healing, kind of, making sure that our community is never forgotten when it comes to cases like these and so much more. So can you just chat a little bit about kind of the biggest challenges of crafting a show of this nature and why now is kind of the perfect time to center Black and Brown missing persons cases on TV in this way?
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for speaking with me. Um, the challenge is, look, we've got a beautiful Black woman with dreadlocks playing this complicated character. That in and of itself, um, I was concerned would be a challenge just in terms of the type of Black women we normally see on TV, especially network TV, because it appeals to a broader audience and sort of there historically just sort of been a lot of parameters around what that Black female could be like. And I think, characters like, to give Shonda Rhimes and the whole Shonda Rhimes camp their flowers, characters like Olivia Pope, characters like Annalise Keating started to open the doorways for us to have these more complex, complicated Black female characters. And so, for me, the challenge was this was going to be a procedural. I knew I wanted a case of the week because I wanted to highlight the missing people that this world just has forgotten about or has deemed are easily disposable. And so I knew I specifically wanted to focus on those cases, but also given it something a little bit different so it didn't just feel like, oh, this is another version of without a trace, or this is another version of some other procedural. And I knew I wanted to give it this sort of thriller aspect to it. And so essentially I was going to networks and pitching this show that it's kind of a procedural, but it's also kind of a thriller, serialized drama, and it's also kind of a social justice piece. It was so many different shows in one that were so clear in my head. But when you're pitching that to people, they like to sort of be like, okay, so this is the new version of X, and there was no X to call this.
Mm.
This Found was kind of its own thing. And so I sort of approached it as being very detailed about the characters, very detailed about the twists, very detailed about the type of cases we were going to do. So all of those things that people are resonating with now in the show have been there since the very, very first pitch years ago. None of that changed. And in fact, Found has sort of had a long development process because it was originally pitched to one network and sold there, but the pilot didn't move forward. And then NBC came back around and sort of they've been interested from day one. And so they called and asked if that script was still available. Very little about Found changed over the years. There were things that changed for budgetary reasons, but the heart, the essence of the show, the twists, the fact that Gabby has kidnapped Sir as an adult and has him in her basement, all of that has been there since the pitch, since day one. And so I was so excited and thankful that people believed in this very detailed version of the show so much that they stuck to the plan, stuck to the original plan, and let me put this very complex group of characters led by the extremely brilliant yet complicated Gabby Mosley, played by Shanola Hampton, and let me put this crazy story from my brain on the air. And as for the second part of your question, in terms of why now, quite frankly, now is always the time, right? When I originally came up with the idea 7 years ago, would have been a time for it to be on the air. 4 years ago, when it was sold somewhere else, would have been the right time for it to be on the air. I think there are a number of factors that have contributed to why it has ended up on the air now. And the timing of it, given sort of what we're going through in this country, given the divisiveness that seems to be so prevalent lately. What I'm hoping is that a show like this, while exciting and thrilling and has people grabbing their pearls and being like, oh my God, what is Gabby doing? That at the same time is also reminding us to care for our fellow human. It is
Mm.
also reminding us that these forgotten ones, missing people from marginalized communities, missing people from all sorts of walks of life, deserve to be found. They deserve to be able to live their lives. They deserve to be reunited with their families. They deserve to have all of us care about their lives the way we do about other missing people. And hopefully the show can help make a difference.
You know what? I'm so glad that you said that, particularly when you leaned into the social, justice piece, because for me personally, watching it, it does feel like a call to action, which is a welcome call to action. Like watching the show really kind of makes you feel like people should be watching and wanting to do more within their communities and wanting to be helpful when it comes to these cases. So I appreciate you saying that and knowing now that there is some intentionality behind it for sure.
Oh, 100%. There's always something to every Rock My Soul production that is trying to hopefully sort of inspire people to be the better version of themselves in some way, shape, or form. And through Found, what we're hoping is that while people are being entertained, that they're also sort of thinking about the role they may have played or not played and sort of keeping an eye out when they see a flyer or a poster, or when they hear something, or if they see something go viral online, but they haven't heard about it on the news. It's so easy to dismiss it. It's just as easy to repost the flyer and
Mhm.
spread it to your community. It's just as easy to sort of speak up, or, Lord knows we send emails for everything. It's just as easy to send an email to one of the news stations and be like, why aren't we covering this young person's missing story, or why aren't we talking more about this? It's our hope is that we're encouraging our audiences that they too can be part of the solution, because if that's even just one more set of eyes looking for someone who's out there missing, that is one more set of eyes than we had before Found was made, and it's one more set of eyes that could be the ones that make a difference.
That is so true. So I would love to chat about Gabby and Sir's dynamic. I mean, you have two incredible actors. I adore Shanola and Mark Paul. And so there's a point in episode 2 where Sir says, he and Gabby are more alike than she realizes. And that really kind of causes her to pause a bit because obviously in her mind, she can't be anything like her kidnapper. Like, there can be no comparison. So how much more of that line will be straddled kind of as the season continues and as their dynamic continues to kind of intertwine?
Oh, well, we're going to see them sort of dissect that a lot over the course of the first season, because at the end of the day, they're both kidnappers, which is something that Sir was kind of alluding to. No matter how you want to sugarcoat whatever is happening, no matter how much you're rooting for Gabby, her reasons being what they are, she has kidnapped a human being. There's no
Mhm.
rewriting that. There's no two ways around that. Whether he deserves it or not is up for debate. Justice versus revenge is up for debate. Mental health and how we heal or don't heal for trauma is up for debate. The thing that is not up for debate is she kidnapped another human being. And so that is the thing that Sir is holding on to when he's trying to draw these similarities and maintain this connection with Gabby. Because at the end of the day, this is a girl he kidnapped and that he felt a connection with and felt was what she needed in her life, and vice versa. And in a way, he's getting that. Even though the roles are reversed, even though he's the one that's chained in the basement, Sir still gets to see Gabby every day. And that's
Mm.
something that maybe Gabby may not be considering, but is very much at the forefront of Sir's mind. And so as these conversations happen between them, as they're trying to solve cases, as Sir pushes the envelope more and more to try and get reactions out of Gabby, we're going to see Gabby really struggle with what she's done, what that means about her, and what she is laying out for her future. And the truth is, I always say Gabby is sort of our poster child for when something horrible and traumatic happens to you, and you do the therapy and you do the healing work, but maybe it hasn't quite taken. And then
Mhm.
something else happens that could sort of, you don't realize you have all these little landmines in you until someone steps on one of them. or something in your life happens that triggers that landmine. And that's when you realize, like, oh, I'm not healed at all. What I did was put up band-aids over this dam, and all it took was one of those cracks widening, and now I'm back to the mess I was at 16. And we'll see Gabby as she heals with each case they solve every week, because that's the thing about what they do. They all believe in it so hard, wholeheartedly, with so much passion. And with each life they restore, each of them are healed a little bit more from what they'd endured at different points in their lives. And that includes Gabby. So as her healing continues over the course of this season, as they're solving these cases, the more healed she gets, the more sort of the fog is clearing from in front of her eyes, and she's going to have to face the decisions she made, and where it has placed her now. And Gabby is sort of someone who will always have people questioning whether the ends justify the means. And I think even for Gabby, as she grows and heals and lets more of her chosen family at MNA sort of breach those walls, the more she's going to find her answer to that question shifts and changes. And the Gabby we meet at the beginning of the season, I can say without giving away any spoilers, is going to feel very different from the woman we encounter at the end of season one.
Let me say, I mean, people often say that, kind of your perception is your reality. And so I
Mm-hmm.
like what you said about Sir, because his perception and is that their family. I mean, really, in his mind, that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of what he equates this to. And it's so interesting to see their dynamic shift currently with her having kidnapped him, but him still having an affinity for her, and in some ways, and still almost viewing her as family, while she has created kind of this idyllic family for herself in the company and with the
Mm-hmm.
people and the team that she's crafted. So I am just curious to kind of see how when they find out that she has Sir in the basement, because it's almost inevitable. I mean, I kind of feel like, it's almost inevitable that somebody gonna find out that he's in the basement. And so, I'm kind of curious how that will shift and change their family dynamic, the one that she's worked so hard to create amongst her team,
Mm-hmm.
when they kind of realize this. So when you say that she will not be the woman that she is, I can almost 100% say, I see it coming, girl. But that's okay, because that's what we need, right? Like, she's a deeply layered person, but also, to your point, she
100%.
has not managed this trauma. And something that I'm seeing too is how, like, she hasn't necessarily managed her trauma, but she thinks she's on top of it. And so, she's like, yeah, I'm on top of it. And Sir, you can tell Sir is going to kind of unend those thoughts very
Exactly.
quickly. Yeah,
Very,
very
very much
quickly.
so. No one is operating, everyone is the hero of their own story, and none of them are operating in a vacuum. There is a cause and effect with every relationship in Gabby's life, and that is a growing, living organism. Each one of those relationships, each one of those cases, the impact they have on each other, and the impact decisions they make have on each other. There, that's a family that prides itself on, we respect each other's trauma and we respect how each other deals with that trauma. And nothing tests that more than every case they go through, where when you're operating outside legal lines, when there's sort of different people have different perspectives on how far is too far, we're going to find those M&A bonds, that hero worship they have of Gabby, the love that they have for each other, tested and pulled and pushed as they're navigating these cases and navigating their own moral compasses within these cases. And Gabby's is the most extreme version of that.
Ooh, I love it. Well, my final question, I just have to say, I'm actually a huge fan of All American and All American Homecoming.
Thank
And
you.
so just seeing kind of these Black stories centered in this way and allowing us to have the freedom to be these characters and see ourselves represented in these ways on screen has just been fantastic. But for you, kind of working on Found and finally getting it out to everyone for the masses to see, how has working on this project specifically kind of shaped and changed and even healed you in certain ways as a creator and as a showrunner?
It's been so surreal. And listen, kind of with Gabby and with every case she writes, I mean, every case she solves heals her. With me, writing is so a part of my self care. It is so a part of my therapy. It is so part of my just journey as an adult and my healing. It's why my company's called Rock My Soul, because there's a little bit of my soul left in every single script I touch. And so, from the scripts I write on All American, which, there's so much of, my father's passing and how I dealt with my father's passing in that story. There's so much of my son, who is a gifted student athlete, who's kind of going through a similar journey in basketball that Spencer is going through in football. There's so much of um, me in all the shows, in Homecoming, in Found, that all of them have played a role in sort of just making me a better, healthier version of myself. And if through my learning and my journey and leaving a piece of my soul in every script, I can help do that for a viewer or an audience member, then, I've done my job. So it's a gift. And during the writer's strike, when I wasn't able to work on these projects, and I don't think I quite realized how much writing and how much these projects specifically played a role in my own sort of healing, health, self-care journey until it was taken away. And I couldn't do it. And it was a rough summer. And it sort of solidified for me, oh, this is my purpose. But it's not just my purpose, it is also part of my healing. And so, I think it's the reason why I can sort of handle the highs and lows and all the craziness that comes with this industry. Because at the end of the day, I get to do the thing I love, and I get to use this thing that I love, which is writing, to help be part of the solution out in the world. There's no worse feeling than feeling like you're going through something alone. And my hope is that through these projects, through all of them, all three of them, that people see themselves reflected in these shows and realize, oh, whether it's teen depression, whether it's the pursuit of an impossible dream, whether it's divorce, whether it's, abuse or trauma in the case of Found, whatever it is, someone else has been through it, someone else has lived through it, someone else has come out on the other side of that, and you're not alone in this. And I'm hoping that the audiences are seeing themselves reflected, even if it's in the heightened entertainment version, or seeing themselves reflected on a TV and realizing, oh, my story isn't unique to me, I'm not alone. And that is providing some comfort.
Well, I will say for me, yes, you have absolutely done that. I don't know that I can speak for everyone else, but for myself and people in my friend group that watch your shows, you have absolutely done that. So
Thank
just thank you
you.
so much for taking the time to chat with Nerdophiles. Really appreciate it.
It is my absolute pleasure. It's been fun. Thank you.
Thank you.